Okay, here comes a low production value video. As you can see, we got a huge mess on this table right here. And that's because we are going to try to see if we can't get ourselves back in the top 10 on the XOC leaderboard for Port Royal and try and grab a couple other leaderboards while we're there. That pesky little Canadian guy with his $100,000 environmental chamber, whatever it costs. We're gonna do this the old school way, hopefully. I know I'm gonna at least beat my old score, but we'll see if all this effort's even gonna be worth it. Today's video is brought to you by our brand new GPU Apocalypse 2.0 shirt, kind of immortalizing all of the stuff you love about today's GPUs. Our GPU Apocalypse 1.0 shirt was actually one of our most famous and popular shirts, and now it's re-immortalized with GPU 2.0. But let's face it, the Apocalypse never went anywhere, it just evolved. Just like this shirt. Go buy it now. So here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna create a brine with salt water because I have to get sub-zero. Now I am gonna go LN2. I just wanna see how far we can go prior to going the extreme LN2 method. Now, I do finally have my hands on the secret sauce BIOS. And no, I cannot share it with you. It's actually very strict on how you get this BIOS and where you get it from and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not gonna cause the sources any problems. I'm sorry, but this is for your safety. This is 1,000 watts that this card will pull. Guaranteed long-term damage and failure will occur if you use it for longer. But I had to also make a little diagram here of the measurements of the spacing and stuff when it comes to 5090, because I am gonna use my Kingpin LN2 pots, but the bracket doesn't fit on 5090. It's gotten bigger, so they're farther apart. So these are the measurements if you're curious here, because it's not a square, it's a rectangle. So it's 100 millimeters diameter by 64 millimeters wide by 76.5 millimeters high. So as soon as we get that bracket, then we'll be able to move on to LN2. I've already started my LN2 account with the gas company that I need to get the LN2 stuff from. No, not air gas, screw those guys. Those guys are crap to work with. But yeah, we're gonna do the old school dirty method first. Now, because we are doubling, well, almost doubling the amount of power that can be drawn through this, I am adding another radiator to the loop. So I've got the 420 rad right here, and I'm gonna be adding another 480 rad to this because I need to make sure that the spikes are able to be controlled. Now I also have 4 submergible pumps that are gonna be in this, keeping the brine mixing, because the more we can keep it mixing, the better the temperature gradient will be. I already explained in the previous video how the top of the loop, well the container will be warmer than the bottom. Actually no, it's the other way around, my bad. The top where the ice floats will be colder than the bottom, but if we keep it mixing, then that won't be a problem. Plus these will allow me to get coolant pushing through the radiators, allow me having to do the sloshy method. I've got propylene glycol here because we are gonna have to bring the loop underneath 0C, because ideally I'm shooting for like 10 to 15 C under load for the GPU. The best I could get with ice water before on the stock BIOS was 21 C. As the highest, or the average temp, we need to bring that temperature down. So I'm gonna have to do about a 30 to 40% propylene glycol mix, which means I'm also going to probably have to add maybe another inline pump just to keep it moving, because as the propylene glycol mix gets colder, it gets thicker, which means it's harder on the pump to move the fluid. Here's the other problem. The card is in my system. You guys saw me build already. So the first thing I got to do is get that card out of there. Fortunately, I haven't brought it home yet because I've been traveling so much and been so busy, I haven't had a chance to get Skunkworks out of there and get that backed up with all the data in off of it, so I can rip that card out. So I guess I get to test my drains. Okay, I have insulated the crap out of this card as best I could. I've got a lot of this foam right here. I didn't want to stick to the block though and have adhesive everywhere, so I just did it backwards and it's all taped up as best I can. But this sucker is definitely a pig in a blanket. So, also too, you notice I'm using the adapter and then 4 PCI Express cables going to it. I'm hoping this will be a better solution than this cable here. My only concern with this is the Corsair ATX 3.0 and 3.1 power supplies terminate to only 2 PCI Express. And I was a little concerned with carrying all of that signal through just 2 plugs off of the power supply. I don't know if this is gonna help or not. I am gonna probably have to have my thermal camera on hand just to kind of keep an eye on that. One of the things I love about the Der Bauer block, or the Deltamate block, I do have another 5090. Astral card that I got specifically for this project. I bought it. Yeah, I know you guys are like, oh, you're buying for NVIDIA. And damn, my tape is already coming off. Can't have to figure this out. Anyway, that's because I'm gonna probably blow it up, and so I need to end up having one for my system. But the other blocks, like I looked at the bike ski block and the Barotech and all that, they don't have direct cooling on the block for the shunts on the power. So there's an image Splave showed me of with the secret sauce BIOS, the shunts themselves hitting 100C. So having the shunts touching the block means I can actively cool those. Just obviously, if the shunts are 100C, that means the cable could be reaching 100C. So we don't want that. So I am hoping that this block, because it does have a thermal pad, and I showed that in the block install on the front and the back of the power connector, power delivery distribution for that. So the 6 shunts for the amp monitoring and the 2 major shunts for the power delivery are technically cooled by the block. So the other blocks, they just leave it floating there with no cooling whatsoever. That's something else I'm also going to have to consider when I go LN2, like how I'm going to actively cool those. I want to do probably more than just pointing a fan at it. Might have to figure out a way to like thermal pad on there with a heatsink or something. I can't just directly mount the heatsink because then it will just bridge the shunts, and we don't want to do that. That will put the card into a fail-safe mode. But we'll see how this does today. And I'm not going to necessarily go right to the 1,000 watt limit. I might do a couple increments just to see how the temps do. But my biggest concern is going to be how far up does the card temp come under load? Now, it came up about 15C under load by the end of the run with just regular ice water. Hoping to get this down to about -5, -10. We know that will bring the temperature of the card down another 5 to 10C, and I hit 21C average before. I'm really hoping for about 10 to 15C average. 5 to 10 would be better, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that with this particular brine. All right, so here's my brine mix. We've got about a little over 4 gallons of water in here. I don't have it covering the top of the rad because obviously the ice is gonna melt too, which is gonna bring the level up. But, so I've got my 4 submergible pumps. You see I've got them staggered, so they're kind of like creating this loop right here on both half of the rads. You can see the water flow too in between them, which is awesome. By seeing any sort of, it smells like the beach, I love it. By seeing any sort of movement in between the rads is good because that tells us that it's actually doing its job by moving water through. So now I'm not gonna have to worry about sitting here sloshing it. I've got way more volume than I did before. Last time I had this single 30 mil by 420. Now I've added a 45 mil by 420. So I've got a lot more capacity in the loop. And that's to hopefully keep the temp from creeping and spiking too much during the run. I'm trying to add more volume to it. I'm also gonna be putting this inline filter in it, which I've had for a long time because these rads have been used in other dunked builds and stuff. And because, like I said, this is my personal block and card, if I don't kill it, I wanna make sure none of the debris that could be in the radiator makes its way into the card. So I'm gonna run this inline filter just to make sure nothing's bad. I've also decided I'm just gonna go with the 1 pump. We have tested D5s down to like -20 with them still able to move fluid. And last time we did that, it was with like a 50-50 or like a 60-40 glycol mix, which got really thick. And we're not gonna be doing that today. We're not going nearly as cold. So now that I know this works, I can go and put together the rest of my loop here. And yeah, I'm getting kind of excited. Okay, I just did a sanity check. So I already showed you this. Here's the loop. So it's coming out of the pump into the big rad, out of the big rad into the little rad, out of the little rad into our filter here, which so far doesn't really look like it's collecting anything, but that's okay. Into the GPU, out of the GPU, back into the pump. There's no ice in here, just ambient water temp, which to be honest is better than any radiators could do because this was already kind of chilled with ice. The ice was in here. We got a 41,788 without even pushing the overclocks, hardly at all. Just to sanity check the Intel uplift, right? So we know the Intel CPUs are doing better at 3D Mark, but look at my core clock right here. Over 3,000 the entire way, going over 3,100 and not crashing without ice water yet. And our GPU temperature, look how level that is. We didn't get any hotter than about 44. It's looking real promising because I'm only 500 points away from my previous best high score, which was like a 42,002 something. Now I got a long way to go to get to 45,808 or whatever it is to beat Linus. But let's keep in mind, I didn't push the overclocks, I don't have ice, and I haven't loaded the new BIOS yet. This is all looking real promising. Okay, the new BIOS is loaded. I've got some stuff I'm monitoring here right now. It's kind of crazy actually. It goes to 160% power limit now, which is absolutely bonkers. I'm so worried for our cables. I should bring my clamp meter out and just keep an eye on some of these too. Yeah, so if I turn on boost lock, look, my core temp goes immediately to 46, 47, But that's because at idle now, technically not idle, but not under load, it's going to 542 watts. It's crazy. That's why I like to use Precision X1 or PX1, because unlike GPU tweak and all that, I have that boost lock button that will force the clocks to go as high as possible, which is a nice thing to know now how far the clock might spike, because it's those spikes that could make us crash. Okay, time to start pulling down the temps, and I'm going to do that by shutting down the system. Since this guy right here is on its own power supply, means the power supply is actually warm. Oh, because the fan was blocked. Good job, Jay. Now that we can cool down the power supply, I can monitor my loop temp. I need to get another K-type probe that's sealed on the end. Mine's have been stripped. So as soon as I put the ones in there that's in fluid that's not sealed off, it freaks out the temperature probe because it's arcing and shorting, right? So I need to order another K-type because I would love to actually be able to measure at the same time the actual loop temperature. We are minus 3.3 on the loop right now. So we're gonna eat lunch. We're gonna let this drop as much as possible. The loop is totally chilling too. Better than I normally get with just ice water, but not as cold as I would still like it to be. It's fine where the loop stops getting colder, and then we'll just go for it. We're not doing anything too crazy right now. We're just doing plus 350 on the core. Now this new BIOS has a higher base, so that's not the same 350 as when the stock BIOS was on there. Voltage at 100 on the slider, power at 160, and memory at 3000. This BIOS also allows the memory to go all the way up to 5000, but I'm just gonna leave it at 3000. The loop is at minus 1.6 right now. It's got a little warm with it running. Yeah, the GPU is currently at 9C. If I turn off boost lock, look, it comes down quite a bit at 1. So we're gonna leave boost lock on and see what happens, if it will even just run. Like, I'm curious as to if it's just gonna go or not. I gotta tell you right now, this FPS is freaking bonkers versus what I normally see on these runs. All right, so this is the end of that test. That was a 44,039, so that's already a heck of a lot better than I had in my best run, but I don't think, did I have, yeah, I did have this off. Okay, so I saw a long way to go to reach Linus, but these temps are still quite hot, to be honest. So my GPU clock was locked to 3375, like pretty much across the board, which is quite crazy. But I might want to see if I can do some voltage tuning to not let it go so high, because I think some of our temperature could be hurting this a little bit. Also says the score didn't validate because I wasn't online. I don't know, every time I tell it valid, there we go. That's a good score now. So not bad for a first run. It's taking forever for the loop to come back down in temp. Okay, rather than walking you guys through every step of this, I'm just gonna kind of keep, let's see if I turn that off. That's why I have to play around with these settings now and see what happens. All right, we'll be back. All right, so now we're getting power loops. Now we've run all these tests so far. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fails on there. We're just about out of ice. Got this set up upside down now with the pumps moving fluid through it. I got up to 44,453, which got me to number 30 from like 80 something. So it's crazy I had to go through all this to get in the top 30. I knew I wasn't gonna catch or beat Linus today. I've gotta go colder for that. I just don't have a 6-figure environmental chamber with anti-humidity to deal with, or to use, so whatever. I just wanna do one more run right now and see if it passes, and then we're gonna call it a day. I mean, look, I've got a successful sub-zero loop. Right, it is frosted over right there. The loop is currently at minus 3.1. It's barely sub-zero, but still sub-zero. And it just shut off again. This is what I'm dealing with right now. I don't know what's causing that. So this is one of those, like, I'm gonna have to kind of take it apart right now and see if there's all kinds of water in there. I think we're about done today anyway. We've gone about as far as we can. You do this kind of sub-zero thing with moisture and condensation, like even though I have all this insulation on there, it's not airtight. So anywhere air can get, condensation will still form. So what we'll do right now is we'll take this apart. This is as far as I'm gonna go with this setup. It's crazy, there's people above me on the leaderboard still with average temps of like 58 degrees. I don't know, I don't get it, but whatever. Yeah, I think we're done for today. I'm gonna take this apart, warm it up, and then just get prepared for LN2, I guess. I don't know if you can see it down in there. There's definitely some wet in there, because obviously where the plug was. So yeah, good news is even though I'm using the adapter, everything survived. This wasn't even really getting much warmer than like lukewarm. I'm surprised, to be honest. It might have been dripping down into the power area right there, which was causing its OCP trip. But you look at the face of the card, it's all dry inside. Oh man, the adhesive got on there, which I didn't want. Remember?
Yeah.
Dang it! Such a beautiful block too. Oh, I'm sure we'll be able to get that off. But that's actually good news. It means the card itself didn't get all soaked. Maybe just a key component did. I forgot to protect the top from the adhesive. So, as you can see, that's... Son of a biscuit. Dang it. I'm not entirely convinced that's the reason why it turned off, but I was thinking maybe something might like moisture down in the socket, but no, it's all dry down in there. Okay, so we do have a couple wins here. I mean, I got over 44,000. I was kind of aiming for 45,000, but didn't quite make it. I got the adhesive off, so that's good, right? There's that. Found isopropyl alcohol actually did a better job at taking that adhesive off than Goo Gone. Double zeros indicates a CPU issue. It's a CPU detection problem. So the fact that it kept like going into a black screen when trying to run the test, I would be shocked if I degraded this CPU already to the point of failure. I honestly think it might be a mount issue if you want to know the truth. This Arctic cooler uses a contact frame, and I have had other CPUs give me double zeros and not want to boot in an Asus board with this particular contact frame before, and so it just means I have to take it out and remount it. But I'm not gonna do that today. We'll save that for another video and see if that ends up being the problem, or if I, like, a record-breaking speed run of breaking a KSQ CPU. I fully expected this to break, but this is fine. I'm assuming this is fine because it, I tried another GPU on here, same problem. The double zeros is not a GPU initialization problem. So it held up great, to be honest. And the fact that at over 900 watts, close to 900 watts, it was 33 degrees on average for me. Now I need that to be colder, and that's why I'm not gonna do this setup again. I'm gonna go right to LN2 for the next runs, because that's the only way I'm gonna be able to truly keep the temps as low as I can get them to keep the clocks up as high as possible. So even though it might say my average frequencies are pretty high, they could be adjusting faster than it's actually measuring the frequency. So any of those dips that happen so quickly are gonna reduce our overall score. So yeah, we're done today. I made a huge mess. Did not catch 45,000 like I wanted, because that would have put me 800 points from Linus. But I've got a lot of work ahead of me. All of this only got me number 30 on the leaderboard, and that's probably only gonna last today. I bet you anything that will be lower by tomorrow. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this little weekend vlog. This was actually a day off for us. Nick and I decided to come in and kind of play around and see what we could get done. And it was not as fruitful as I'd hoped it would be. But we're asking a lot of ice water to cool a GPU like this, pulling more than entire systems pull typically. It's kind of fascinating that it can even survive that, and then the wires weren't even getting warm. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. Next video, we'll probably figure out what the hell went wrong on here. If I just have to swap the CPU, I only got about 10 runs out of that CPU if that's the case. I don't know. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one.